Today we're going to start our work in the painting studio. First, open your book to the painting page. You'll see it says painting, there's a palette and a paintbrush. First thing says, I can write my name on my work. So I'm going to come down to the box and I'm going to write my name in pencil. This reminds us that every time we start a new piece of art, we write our name first thing so that we don't forget. Number 2, I can set up my area for painting. I have a bowl of water, a paper towel, a brush, and my watercolor set. Number 3 is I can use watercolor paint. First thing we have here is I can make a wash. A wash is just when you make the color a lot lighter. I use water on my brush and I put some on the paper since I'm not using a palette to mix it in. So I lay out some water on my paper, then I go in and I wake up my color with a wet brush, and then I put a little bit of color on top. I don't want much color at all on my brush or it'll go on too dark. So I'm going to get a little more water, a little more color. Ooh, it's already awake, so it might be kind of dark. Dipped it in the water. Yeah, it is a little darker, but I can spread it around and I can get more water if I need to. Add a little bit more color in there. This is really pretty. These make pretty skies. Washes also make pretty oceans and sunsets. Number 4, I can clean my brush before changing colors. I stir it down at the bottom of the bowl, wipe it on the side of it, dab it on my paper towel, and I even like to check it on the back of my hand. If it's not clean, I repeat the process. The next technique I'm going to do is called wet on wet. First, I cover my area with water, wet my paper down, and then I'm going to need to wake up my green since I haven't used it at all by taking a wet brush, kind of just brushing over the top of it until that color is ready to be used. And I'm going to just drip it on that wet paper. See how it spreads out. Down here my paper started to dry already, and see, it doesn't want to spread out, so I need to get that area wet again. Put a little bit of water on it. I'm gonna wake up my yellow. Wake it up. And now watch the yellow spread out in that area. And since it's wet, it'll mix a little bit with the green. When you do wet on wet, your colors are going to kind of mix together. I like it. It's a little unpredictable and exciting. Next, I'm going to do a crayon resist. This is where I color with crayon or draw with crayon, and then I paint over the top of it. Notice I'm pressing hard with my crayon when I color. The effect will be much more exciting than if I used my crayon lightly. We need plenty of wax on the paper to resist the watercolor. And now for the resist. I'm going to get a little water on my brush, take a drop of blue, and put it on top. Ooh, that's a little bit too dark. I'm going to need to go in and get more water. Let a little bit of that blue out of my brush. I'm going to spread out the paint and not put any more paint on, because I can spread that color out. I can go right over everything that I did in crayon. I'm avoiding my clouds right now because I want them to be a different color. So you can see how even when I brush over my sun, the yellow crayon shows through. The wax in it is resisting the paint. Gonna get a little purple and a lot of water on my brush and do a wash over the clouds because I want them to be light. light purple. So my final watercolor technique is called dry brush. So just as it sounds, I need to get my brush dry. So I'm going to dry it off on my paper towel. Then I'm going to feel the bristles, maybe get them spread out a little bit so I know they're nice and dry. And I just barely dip it into some paint. And I don't even want that paint to be super wet. I use a light hand, light pressure. I'm going to lightly apply the paint onto the page. I'm going to repeat the process, drying out, washing, drying, checking my bristles, and dab lightly into a different color. I might even test it on my paper towel to make sure it's dry enough. Then just lightly brush it on. I love the texture this creates. I've used it on grasses before, or on the texture of fur on an animal. So finally, I'm going to come over to my big page and I can paint whatever I want. When you start a new color, you want to wake it up, put some water on it, and when you paint lines, you want to apply them by dragging your brush, not pushing or scrubbing. Okay, washed the brush out, got a little bit more paint. I'm going to make a thick line by gently pulling my brush across the page. I think I'm going to do a little bit of wet on wet. So I'm going to take my brush and put some water down on my paper. Then I get a little bit of paint and I'm going to drip that paint on and watch the colors spread out. Up by my lines, my paper's kind of dry, so I can put paint here without it running into the other colors. So the colors stay separate where the paper was dry and they run together where I used wet on wet. Now I'm just going to take a little bit of time to fill in my painting however I like. Finally, I'm going to add in a little bit of dry brush. I'm finished with my painting. I can't wait to see what you're going to make.